Hello and welcome to our YouTube channel. My name is Kate and I'm one of the librarians in Richmond Libraries, and I'm here today with some book recommendations for LGBTQ+ History Month. This year's theme is medicine, #UnderScope, and it celebrates the contributions of the LGBTQ+ community within the field of medicine and healthcare. This is a perfect time to introduce the book that I think fits the bill perfectly. It's How to Survive a Plague by David France. David France is a journalist and a filmmaker. He also produced a documentary under the same title, and he was reporting on this issue from the very beginning. It's not an easy book to read. It involves real people and their lives, but it's an important history of AIDS, social and scientific history, and it also tells the stories of individuals and of grassroots organizations whose actions help to ensure that AIDS and HIV became a manageable disease rather than a death sentence. My next book is Men at War, Loving, Lusting, Fighting, Remembering, 1939-1945, and it's written by Luke Turner. This is part memoir, part historical non-fiction, and it looks at the generation of men who fought in the Second World War, but not necessarily fit this stereotype of masculinity and sexuality that's normally presented in books. He looks at the life stories of LGBTQ+ community during the war. So we've got life stories of gay men, a bisexual man, and through those lenses he examines their war, the view on the war and the life, and his own fascination with war as a bisexual man, and also the legacy that's left. And now for something completely different. A Short History of Queer Women by Kirsty Law. So this is a book for those of you who would like to learn something about a queer women in the history, but not necessarily want to read a massive boring volumes, and after something short and sweet and maybe a bit funny. So this short book is full of queer women throughout the history. Some of them you might already know, so Sappho, Anne Lister or Gentleman Jack. But there are so many others whose queerness, whose lesbianism was never really mentioned in historical books. There is Eleanor Roosevelt, there is a Virginia Woolf, there are women who dress up as pirates, there are women who were prosecuted for being lesbians, there are suffragettes, there are football stars, there are so many other women who deserve to be heard as well. So this volume is for you if you're looking for something nice and quick to learn something new. The next book is Fabulosa, The Story of Polari, British Secret Gay Language, and it's written by Paul Baker. Fabulosa is a history of a language that was spoken mostly by gay men and mostly in the first part of the 20th century. This is a fascinating history of a people who spoke it and also a language itself. The author goes into great detail to look into the history of the language and how it evolved and what it evolved from. He took great care to interview lots of people who either spoke Polari or knew someone who spoke Polari, and from their stories he tells the histories of the people who use it and how the language evolved and what it meant in a social culture context. And it's a fascinating story about a part of the queer culture that is not necessarily so widely used now, but it really deserves to be remembered. So grab this book if you want to learn something about Polari. These are the 4 books that are already available in our libraries, but I would like to talk to you about the 3 other books that are coming up soon, and I think they deserve to be mentioned as well. The first book is James and John, a true story of prejudice and murder, and it's written by Chris Bryant. James Pratt and John Smith were last two men hung for sodomy in 1835, and despite there being the petitions for clemency and the other prisoners being sent to Australia for similar charges, these two were actually hanged. The next recommendation that's not yet out is Revolutionary Acts by Jason Okundaye. The history of black gay men in Britain is not as well documented as it possibly should be, but hopefully that will change with this book, in which the author documents lives of 7 older black gay men. They lived through the same history, the same upheavals, but they also met not only with prejudice against their sexuality, but also their race. And finally, the last recommendation, it is Jack and Eve, Two Women in Love and at War by Wendy Moore. This is the story of two women who met and fell in love in 1909 and then went on live their lives together and become faces of a suffragette movement. And through this lens, the author is looking at the history of suffrage and also the lesbianism in the 20th century. And that's all. We have fabulous books to look forward to, some amazing titles to borrow straight away, and they're all available in our libraries. I hope you enjoy this video. I'll link all the information we need at the bottom of this video, and also if you have any great recommendations for the LGBT History Month yourselves, please let us know on social media. That's all from me for today. Thank you very much and goodbye.